This technique enables you to create a multi-layered animation using the bone tool in order to create more complex imagery. So I'm in Adobe Animate and I have a very complex layered project here. So as you can see, it's got many different layers, and I use the bone tool to create this animation. So I'm going to show you how to do that. In a previous tutorial, I showed you how to just use a single layer and create a much more abstract sort of stick figure animation using the bone tool. So now we're going to get a little bit more detailed. So I'll start with a new project. In this particular assignment, you have to use the native drawing tools within the Adobe Animate program. You can't import anything from Illustrator or Photoshop or another program. So I'm going to take my drawing tablet and I'm going to start out by drawing the head and body. Now, anything that's going to be in the same layer has to be the same color because the bone tool won't work matching things that are different colors. It'll perceive them as different objects. So I'm going to make this real detailed. So I'm just going down to like 3 pixels. I changed my color to black, and I'm going to create my my person. Now, any changes you make to the size of the person, or erasing, or drawing, anything else you do has to be done prior to you using the bone tool. It's going to not be editable afterwards. So I'm going to just take my bucket tool and I'll start filling in different areas to create the hair. And since it's not allowed to be different colors, I'm going to use an eraser to create texture in the hair. And I'll use the bucket tool also on the head. It's going to perceive all this stuff as being one shape as long as it's all the same color. So I can use the eraser to create some detail and refine the edge of my shape. And I'll use the brush tool to add some more hair up here so it doesn't look like she's balding. Okay, now because I'm not allowed to use a different color, I'm going to have to use the eraser to create the eye. So you can see that this is, I won't say it's an abstract design, but it's definitely very stylized. So I'll use the brush tool to kind of fill in here. All right, so yeah, it's a very stylized form of drawing because I can't switch colors. So there's the head, and now I'm going to create the body. There's the neck. I'm going to erase some of the hair here so that I don't want the hair and the body to overlap, because if they do, it's going to cause some problems later when I want to animate it. So I'm going to just create the body. Again, a very stylized body, not realistic. And I will fill it with the paint bucket tool. Okay, there's the, okay, so let's see if I can add a little bit more to the body to make it look a little bit more believable. Okay, so I can change the size of this to better fit the stage. So I have enough room for the arms and legs. Let me take care of that right now. Right now, that looks like the body is a little bit small for the head. So I think I will just fill the body out a little bit more so it looks correct. It also looks like she's got kind of a hunchback, so let me fix that. All right, so good enough because this is just a sample for a tutorial. I'm gonna look at how much room I have on my stage by going back, and it looks like I've got plenty of room. So I'm just gonna grab my drawing, and I'm gonna bring it up near the top, so I have room for the rest of my animation. So let me just zoom in a little here. I'll go to 75%, no, maybe 50%. And I'm going to just click off of the ear. And at this point, I'm going to just refine the head a little bit more before I start rigging my puppet. So you can kind of think of your figure as almost like a doll, and you are rigging it like a marionette. So I'm now going to go to the bone tool, which, as we discussed before, if it's not on your timeline, you just hit those three dots there and you can, if it's not in your toolbar, you can drag it into your toolbar. So once I've done this, I'm not going to be able to edit this layer anymore because for size or to erase anything once I've used the bone tool on it. So I'm going to start out at the torso, and I believe I'm going to go down to the hips, and then I'm going to start at the torso and go up into the head. And now, if you just grab this tool, which is the selection tool, you'll see that as long as you grab one of these nodes, you can move your figure around using the bone tool. So that being said, I want to add in the arms and the legs. Now, in this case, I'm going to first rename this armature 1 layer, which was created when I used the bone tool. I will name it head and body. Okay. So what happens is this program doesn't recognize spaces, so it adds underscores in between the shapes. So now I'm done with the head and body layer. I'm going to add a new layer, and in this layer, I'm going to create the arms. Now, I can change the color at this point because it's a new layer. However, everything in this layer that's going to be connected with the bone tool has to be the same color as each other. So I'm going to go here. I'll pick a skin color, and I'll go back to my brush, and I will actually draw the arm over here. Okay, I'm going to drag it over later, but right now I'll draw the arm. I will use the paint bucket tool, fill it in. At this point, I don't really feel the need to edit it, so I'm going to grab the bone tool. Before I use the bone tool, I'm going to just grab my arm and I'll bring it over here so that it's positioned correctly. Now I will use the bone tool. So I'm going to start at the shoulder. I'll go down to the elbow, and then I'll go up to the wrist, and there's my bone tool. So again, as long as you're grabbing one of the nodes, you actually have a lot of control over how this arm moves. And you can see it's not getting messed up the way it would with where it was all in one layer because with the previous animation. Okay, so now that I've taken the trouble to create this arm, I'm going to name the layer, which is now an armature layer. I'll call it arm. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'll bring arm copy underneath head and torso, head and body, because one should be in the front, the other should be in the back. And as you can see now, I've got two arms that I can control and my marionette. So now I'm going to do the legs. Now the thing about the legs is, again, you can't make the shoes a different color than the pants. It's all got to be one color. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'll bring it up to the front, to the top of my pile, and I'm going to now go back to my brush tool, and let's see what, let's see. So I'm going to have her wearing blue pants, and her shoes also need to be the same color. They need to be blue as well. So I'm going to now grab my brush, and I will draw her pants and shoes. If you close off the shape, you can very easily color it with a bucket tool. Again, everything's got to be the same color if it's in the same layer, or the bone tool will not connect the objects, unfortunately. Okay, so now I've got this drawn. I'm going to now use my bone tool. I'm going to connect my hip to my knee, and my knee, I'll have to do that again, my knee to my ankle. Okay, so now I have my selection tool, and you can see that as long as I'm grabbing one of these nodes, I can get this to work very well. I do need to, however, move it a little higher so that it looks a little better. And then, let's see. There we go. That looks a lot better. Okay, so now I'm going to rename this layer. Instead of armature 11, I will name it leg. I will then duplicate the layer, right click on the layer, and duplicate the layer, and there's leg copy. So I'll just grab leg and I will bring it down so that it's in the back. And now, as you can see, this leg can go that way and that leg can go that way. And if you use the free transform tool, you can bring the leg up a little bit. I'll use the free transform tool here and bring this leg up a little bit so they're positioned better. And now I have my entire armature here. So before you add in the background layer, which you will need, when the animation exports, the background automatically turns black. So her entire head and neck and body would disappear if we didn't create a background color. But we can't create it yet because right now we need to create some motion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to about 2 seconds, and I'm going to select every single layer. It's got to be every single layer. And then I'm going to right click and, oh, I forgot something, sorry. So this layer 1 is no longer necessary because we have all these action layers, so we'll just delete it. So now we just have the action layers. So now I'm going to go to about 2 seconds into my video. I will hold the control key so that I can select all the layers. They all must be selected. And they've all got to line up. That's real important. On a Mac, you would hold the, so I don't want to do that. On a Mac, you would hold down the command button, but on a PC, it's the control key. Okay, so I've gone to 2 seconds. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert a pose. Okay, so at 0 seconds at the beginning of the video, the person looked like this. So I'm going to try and get them to walk. So I'm now at 2 seconds and I'm going to grab this node. Oh, sorry. Whoops. I was in the free transform tool. I don't want to be in there. Okay, so now I'm going to grab this node and I'm going to bend the person's knee and I'll swing it back. And then I will grab this leg and swing it forward. Again, bending the knee. So I've got a walking motion going there. Again, you see it's not perfect because there's a little bit of a disconnect at the top. So if I want to, I can move the legs just a tiny bit so that they look better when they're done. Okay. And now I'm going to just check out that motion. And it looks very natural. So now, when a person walks, they generally also swing their legs. So I'm going to go back to the selection tool. When they swing their legs, they also generally swing their arms. So I will swing her arms as well. And I'm noticing that leg copy should probably be underneath arms, that it looks right. Okay, so you can see how you can reorganize the layers. All right, so now let me see if I can go up to head and neck, and maybe I will get her to look down as she's walking. Okay, so as you can see, you can also refine it in between. So halfway through, I had her look down and then she looks back up again. Okay, so now I've created that motion. So now I'm going to go to 4 seconds and I'm going to go to each layer. They have to be all lined up. I have to either hold the shift or control key. And now once I've selected all these layers, I'm going to insert another pose. Insert pose. And now I'm going to swing this leg forward. And I'll swing this one back. I'll swing this arm forward. This arm back. And I guess I will have her look down one more time. Okay, so let's go to the beginning. And let's play our video. All right, so let's see how it looks. There she is. She's walking. I don't really like how her leg comes out like that. It looks like her pants are detaching from her body. So I'm going to grab that and I will move it so that it looks better. And let's see how this looks now. Actually looks very good. So I can continue adding a couple of seconds, and this will be the last time I do that. And so I'm going to go here. Again, I can either hold the shift or the command key if you're on a Mac. It will be the control key if you are on a PC. Okay, so there, and now I'm going to insert another pose. Let's do that again. I'm not on the select key. I'm on the not on the select tool. I'm on the I was on the free transform tool. So let me just hold the control key so I can select all of them. Now, right click, insert pose, and in this case, I think I'm going to have her looking up. I'll have her look at the sky. That's kind of cool. And because she's looking at the sky, maybe I'll have her reach for something, like she's catching something that's dropping. And let me bring her knee forward, and this leg I'll bring back. So she's standing still. And you can see how up here there's a little bit of a problem in the way that the legs are lining up. So I will move that and fix that so that the legs look like they're lining up properly. So that looks a little bit off. I will grab that and bring it so that it looks correct. And now let's see how this looks. So let me play the video. She's walking along, she looks down, she looks up, and she acts like she's going to catch something. So if I want to add to the story, I can go, I'll add another layer. And this is where it becomes kind of fun. I'll put this layer on the top. And because I want to be able to see, I'm going to reduce the size of the stage. And I think what I'm going to do is I am going to create, since I want it to actually be a little bit of a story, I will add in a little orange ball here. And I'm going to right click, create motion tween, and I'm now going to go here, and because it's supposed to, she's supposed to actually be like catching something, I'll make it come down here like she's actually catching a ball. Okay, so let's see if we can make this make sense. Okay, so I'm going to have to go here to this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer, and this layer. I'm not going to pick the top layer, and I'm going to insert a pose. Okay. So now, since I want her to catch the ball, I'm going to have her one leg come down. Oh, this leg come up. And there we go. Okay, now we got a little problem with her legs. So I'll use the free selection tool and just move the legs a little bit so they work better. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the top layer. I'm going to pull it out. And I will continue the motion of the ball straight into her arms, or waiting arms. And because I don't want it to be on top of her arm, so I'll make it underneath so it looks like she's really catching it. Okay, so let's see if this now story makes sense. She's walking along. She's walking along. She's looking down. She looks up. A ball falls, and she catches it. Okay, so now when I export this, unfortunately, what's going to happen is the background is going to turn black. So I need to add another layer, and this layer I will put way underneath at the bottom of everything. I have to go to the beginning of my movie. I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm going to change it to a color I haven't used yet. In this case, it'll be yellow, and I will pull it over the entire stage. Can't do this at the beginning of the story, because if you do it at the beginning, what ends up happening is it's only then visible in the first frame. So you do it at the very end, and you got to make sure you pull the timeline all the way back to the beginning to do it so that it's visible in the whole story. So now let's look at our story now, which is about an 8-second story about a girl walking along. She looks up, a ball falls, and she catches it. Great. Okay, and you've used the native drawing tools inside Adobe Animate. We've used multiple layers, and we have used pose-to-pose animation, which is one of the 12 principles of animation. And we have used the bone tool in combination with our previous knowledge about motion tweens. So now I'm going to do File, Save As. I'm now going to save it as girl catching ball. And now I'm going to do File, Export, Export Video, and it will end up in my downloads, and I'm going to export it. It goes to the media encoder and then into my downloads. And here is the finished animation, walk cycle with a little story using the bone tool.